Myself Nikita Mishra from Department of Chemistry, Gujarat University. I welcome you all in the first online refresher course in chemistry hosted by Department of Chemistry, Gujarat University, Ahmedabad. On behalf of Dr. Jagdish Joshi, Professor Director UGC HRDC, and Dr. Dilip Wasawa, Assistant Professor Refresher Course Coordinator, Department of Chemistry, Gujarat University. Once again, I welcome you all in the next session of Mr. Pankaj Podar, Principal Scientist, Physical and Material Chemistry Division, CSIR, National Chemical Laboratory, NCL, Pune. His current research interest includes magnetic ferroelectric materials, materials for thermostics, metallic nanoparticles and quantum clusters, semiconductors including graphitic carbon-based materials, phosphor nanomaterials, biophysics. Specialty with various experimental methods such as advanced microscopic methods, which includes piezo response force microscopy, force spectroscopy, electron force microscopy, electron microscopy. Optical methods, which includes spectroscopic ellipsometry, Raman spectroscopy. Low temperature and high magnetic field setup includes vibrating sample magnetometry, squid magnetometry, AC suspectometry. Impedance spectroscopy down to 2K, magnetoimpedance, magnetoresistance, and Hall effect. Thermal method includes specific heat capacity, thermoelectric figure of merit, thermal conductivity, magneto-heat capacity. Self-assembly includes Langmuir-Blodgett method. Glimpse of some awards and achievements during his tenure. Awarded as the Fellow of Electron Microscopy Society of India in the year 2017. MRSI Medal for the year 2014 instituted by the Material Society of India. Elected as the Fellow of Maharashtra Academy of Sciences in Physical Sciences in the year 2013. Highlighted by the American Chemical Society among authors of high quality research in ACS journals in India 2012. Scientist of the Year Award in 2010 at CSIR National Chemical Laboratory instituted by NCL Research Foundation R.A. Mashelkar Endowment Fund. Discussion leader of a session on spin polarized materials at 2010 Gordon Conference on Magnetic Nanostructure held at USA in August 2010. Young Scientist Award in Physical Sciences for the year 2008 instituted by the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research CSIR India. Received Junior Research Fellowship from 1995 to 97 and Senior Research Fellowship during 1997 to 2000 from Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi through its entrance examination. Under the guidance of Mr. Pankaj Podar, 11 PhD students graduated from his group in diverse fields such as biotechnology, in chemistry, in chemical sciences, in physical sciences, and in biological sciences. Currently, 4 PhD fellows are working in his group with the diverse fields. 3 postdoctoral fellows currently working in his group under the fellowship offered by DST India. Mr. Podar has 3 patents granted and more than 50 quality research paper has been published in reputed national and international journals. Thank you.
Hi, in this lecture, you will learn introduction to the atomic force microscopy, which is an imaging technique, which is getting very, very popular. I am Dr. Pankaj Podar. I'm a scientist at National Chemical Laboratory, Pune. So in this slide, I'm going to show you the history of the development of this technique. So atomic force microscopy developed from its first a version or avatar or whatever you call it, which is called as scanning tunneling microscope. So this was developed by Beening and Rohrer at IBM Zurich in 1981. So this tool, scanning tunneling microscope, worked through the measurement of tunneling current between conducting tip and the surface. So it flowed some current between a sharp tip and the sample, and as the tip and sample separation changed, so obviously the tunneling current varied, and The variation in the tunneling current gave the information about the topography and the sample properties. But as you can see that this technique was limited to the conducting surfaces, because non-conducting surface you can't have any tunneling current. So then Beening, collaborating with Kuwait and Garber, invented another variant of this technique. It's called atomic force microscope. So it uses the same philosophy that it is a probe, and the probe is scanning, and it is getting some microscopy information. In this tool, they used rather forces between the tip and the sample. By measuring the forces, they were able to use ambient technique and any kind of substrates to get the topography of the sample down to the atomic level. In this technique, sample was always in the contact with the tip and sample were in the contact with each other. So you can understand that it's not a good idea, because tip might scratch the surface and tip can damage or sample can damage. So they thought that why don't we lift the tip slightly away from the surface, so that it is still remain in the van der Waals interaction range, but the shear force is zero. But this technique, though it limited the shear forces, it was not problem free, because there is always adsorbed water layer on almost all the surfaces when we put them in ambient condition. So this adsorbed water layer acts uh, basically it basically creates capillary between the tip and the sample, and this capillary force is very strong. So there are chances that this tip can be pulled back toward the surface. So this technique, non-contact imaging, is not that easy. So then they developed another technique which is called intermittent contact or tapping mode. I'll teach you this technique. So there, a tip is intermittently in touch with the sample, and the frequency of the oscillation of the tip is so high that it breaks free of those adhesive forces between tip and the sample. And there were other betterment of the technique over a period of time because of the invention of the computer and their popularization and the microfabrication of the tip. So they earlier they used to fabricate the tip in the lab. So now they could get them in a box delivered from a factory. So you can see that this technique has become so popular that many variants are available in the market. You can do the imaging in the contact mode, non-contact mode, intermittent contact mode. You can image the chemical forces. For example, you can get the information about the functional group uh, of the surface, if there is any molecule or something. So this is a very powerful technique. You can measure the lateral forces. For example, of material is smooth or rough. So you will get different kind of lateral forces or frictional force microscopy, FFM. Another technique is electrical force. So tip has some charge and surface has some charge. So if you want to image what kind of charges are present at the surface, so based on the amount of charges, the tip may experience different kind of forces, whether it is repulsive or attractive, depending upon the electric force. So then imaging that, you get a lot of information about the sample. You can calculate, in fact, by using a Calvin probe microscope in other technique. You can also calculate a dielectric constant and other information. You can measure the elasticity and plasticity and indentation by force spectroscopy. This is a very powerful technique. Magnetic force imaging can be done if you have some, for example, magnetic domain wall. So orientation of the magnetic domain can be easily seen. For example, you can take a piece of hard disk, computer hard disk, and then you can look at the bits written spin up, spin down on the hard disk using magnetic force microscopy. Here the tip is coated with the magnetic material. So if it is coated with the magnetic material, and it is polarized. So depending upon the direction of the polarization, magnetic polarization, and the polarization in the substrate, either you will have a magnetic attractive force or repulsive force. Then this force is felt by the cantilever uh, using mechanism which I'm going to show you. And then you can quantitatively calculate the forces. You can also measure the temperature. So you can have a temperature sensor attached to the tip of this microscope, and by scanning over the surface, you can measure whether the temperature of certain devices is higher or lower. For example, you might have some nanoelectronics diode transistors, ICs, and all kinds of thin capacitors. So on the surface, so you can see the local temperature of those surfaces very easily. You can also oxidize selectively some surface. Suppose you have a silicon and you want to oxidize a piece of silicon selectively from some area. You want to write over that. So you can apply some voltage between the tip and sample. By applying voltage, it is possible to selectively oxidize, and it's very useful technique in lithography. Actually, lithography means you can write pattern using this kind of nano oxidation. Dip pen lithography is similar to the pen, your fountain pen, where you have an ink, and when you write, then ink flows from your pen and it gets transferred on the piece of paper. Similarly, here in the using dip pen nanolithography, you can write using molecules. So you can write patterns, and it is very useful technique for these biosensors. So you can create some kind of sensors for viruses, bacteria, and certain enzymes for medical devices. SNOME is basically a near optics macroscope, scanning near optics macroscope. You know, the far field, the most of the microscope work in the far field, but this is using near field, and it is coupled with the atomic force microscope, so you can get single molecule spectroscopy can be done. And normally when we do photoluminescence spectroscopy or Raman, so we get photons collection from a large amount of samples. Using this SNOME technique, you can get the data from a very small area, uh, which is already imaged using AFM. So this becomes very powerful. STM already I have explained, and I'm also going to explain in the next 2-3 slides. So STM was basically one of the first direct proof of electron tunneling through vacuum. So STM involves individual atoms on surfaces by probing the surface electron wave function with the tip of an extremely sharp needle. So it is like a blind man walking over the pavement, and the person finds the way out by tapping the stick. So it is similar to the STM technique. Here, the tip moves closer to the sample, and when it moves closer to the sample, so if you apply some constant volt, for example, 1.5 volt, just an example. So there will be increase in the tunneling current as the tip and sample separation decreases. So when this separation increases, there will be a decrease in the current, exponential fall in the current. And when the tip moves closer to the surface, there will be exponential increase in the current. So using this basic principle, it is possible to know the topography of the sample. This is the schematic. So these are surface atoms and these are tip atoms. So you can see that the last few atoms participate into the electron tunneling, because electron always find the shortest path to tunnel through. So these faraway atoms do not participate. So that's the beauty of this technique, that it automatically limits the resolution. Resolution becomes very high because of basic physics. So electrons won't tunnel through the faraway atoms. and you can see that distance is less than 10 angstrom. And this was one of the technique which blew people's mind, that okay, they could see the wave function immediately. So this became highly popular technique. But as I mentioned, that this has a limitation, that this surface can be either metallic or semiconducting. It can't be insulator in nature. Um, so, uh, how you measure this tip and sample current? Basically, whether it is AFM or STM, the sample moves x, y, z direction, and the sample is sitting on the top of the scanner, and the scanner is basically piezo tube, and the piezo tube, when you apply the voltage, so the movement happens the way you apply the voltage. So you can go closer to closer to the tip or away from the tip, or you can scan XY direction. It is also possible to put the scanner on the tip. So if you don't want to move the sample, and if you want to scan the tip and keep the sample stationary, so that is also possible. And both the techniques, where either sample is you're scanning the sample, or you're scanning the tip, both have got their own advantages and disadvantages. So that's how the AFM works. So in AFM, you have a cantilever, which is a flexible silicon substrate, or silicon nitride, or silicon, and the spring constant is K. So basically, it follows Hooke's law, F is equal to minus Kx. So when this force is felt, and so cantilever deflects by amount of x, based on the cantilever K. So cantilever K, spring constant K should be as it should be small, but it should not be too small that it can just flex too much and break. So spring constant of this cantilever is of the order of 0.01 Newton per meter for contact mode probes, or it can be 0.1 Newton per meter of that order. And if you are imaging it in tapping mode or intermittent contact mode, then this spring constant needs to be larger. So you can see that we follow here basic principle, F is equal to minus K x. X is basically the deflection of cantilever either upwards or downwards, depending upon the force. Whether force is repulsive, then this will flex upwards, and if the force is pulling the cantilever down, so then this will be flexing downwards. So then this deflection is basically the x here. K is fixed here of the cantilever. You can change the K. So depending upon the force, you can calculate the x. So F and x are related. So by measuring x, and you already know the K, spring constant, you can easily calculate F. So it's very easy. So how do you measure this deflection? That has to be looked at. So you measure the deflection by bouncing the laser beam on this cantilever, and this laser beam bounces off, and it reaches to a photodiode, and photodiode looks at any subtle changes in its cantilever diffraction. So basically, photodiode is split into 4 parts, and you can let me show you some forms. So this photodiode is split in 4 parts: A, B, C, D. So when it is relaxing, so the laser will hit somewhere here. So and if it is moving upwards, so this laser will hit somewhere here. And if it is in the attractive mode, it will be somewhere here. So you can calculate the voltage, differential voltage here, and that differential voltage will give you idea about what kind of forces and how much forces you have. So this is how it is described in a schematic. You can see that this moves, and then that's how the photo detector basically tells you the information about. So this is a generic scheme where most of the atomic force microscope works. As I mentioned that this is the scanner, and this is a piezoelectric actuator, and role of this actuator is to move the this probe up and down, or the sample up and down, whatever the case it may be, the way it is designed, and then you measure the you do the data acquisition by lock-in amplifiers. So basic difference between STM and AFM, just a revision. So you have, this is the basically electronic structure, for example. You can have some sensitive states, there's a filled or unfilled state of the tip, and similarly of substrate. So depending upon that, and suppose these two objects, they are spaced by distance d. So the current will flow accordingly, either from the tip or to the substrate, or substrate to the tip. And this current will decay exponentially as the function of separation d. So this is the beauty of this technique, that it gives it very high resolution because of the exponential decay of the current. This is not the advantage in AFM. AFM, the forces between the tip and sample, they are quite complex. As you know that there are attractive forces and repulsive forces, and when the tip is far away from the surface, so this is x-axis shows the tip sample separation, the distance, and the y-axis, this axis shows you the repulsive forces or attractive forces, and this is zero force line. So when the tip is far away from the sample, so there is no force, zero force, this is zero force line, right? And when tip starts moving closer to the sample, so you start experiencing the attractive forces. And finally, when tip starts coming too close to the sample, when there is a overlap of the electronic wave function, then the Pauli exclusion principle kicks in, and then we have repulsive force which sets in, and somewhere you can say that they counterbalance each other. So now you are crossing this zero force line. So so you can say that where there you have made the contact with the tip. So how do you define the contact? So you have entered into contact when you cross this zero force line somewhere here. It's very difficult to define exactly the contact. The term contact is very difficult to define, but usually it is taken somewhere. I will show you in the next slides. So if you keep on decreasing the distance between tip to sample, basically tip is just crashing into the with some force into the sample, and it will make a dent into the sample, and that is also very useful because that reason gives you very important information about elasticity and plasticity. For example, I'm pressing my hand with a finger, so so I know that I'm pressing on my bone or the muscle. So if I can, if this area is soft, I can press with much greater depth, and here I cannot press with that depth. So similarly, this also allows you to measure the indentation, hardness and softness. Another thing is that elasticity, plasticity. So if I press the surface, suppose this is the atomic force microscope tip. If I press the surface and if I remove the force, if it bounces back to the original condition, that means I'm in the elastic region. If it doesn't bounce back, that means the surface has become plastic by that force. So that is also possible. So there are three modes of operation. There are three basic ways this technique can work. One is the contact mode, another is the non-contact mode or intermittent contact mode, or tapping mode. So as I mentioned that in the contact mode, you can see that these tip atoms are always in contact with the sample. Now you already know what do we mean by the contact. That means they are in the Pauli exclusion principle. So you can see always that there is a shear force. There is a when you scan this tip left and right sideways. So you can see that these atoms are basically there is a friction. There is a friction force. So, which is also a good technique to calculate the friction, basically smoothness or roughness of the surface. But it can be a nuisance for some soft sample, for example, polymer or biological samples. We don't want to scratch those surfaces. So, this is a very fast technique and it gives you very high resolution, but it can damage the surfaces. So that's the reason that we have another technique which is called tapping mode. So here there is this tip is sinusoidally oscillating up and down with certain amplitude. So when so in one of the cycle it taps the surface and then it pulls far away. Then it keeps on basically sort of hammering the substrate gently, obviously. Uh, so this is called dynamic technique or intermittent intermittent mode or tapping mode. In third technique, as I mentioned, that this is similar to the tapping mode or intermittent tapping contact mode. So in this non-contact mode, the tip is sinusoidally moving up and down, fine. But the difference is that the amplitude of oscillation, sinusoidal movement is very small and it doesn't tap. It just remains in the attractive region. It doesn't go into the repulsive region, which is contact region. Fine. So this is displayed here very nicely. So you can see that this is the tip sample distance plotted here. And you can see that it is the contact mode works somewhere here, where tip is always in the contact, and intermittent contact, basically all these, you can see this shaded region as well as in the intermediate. So the tip can move a large distance, and this region is shaded, this region is non-contact. So, okay. This is again another way of understanding the technique. So you can see that in AFM contact mode, tape is always in the contact with the substrate when it scans, and in the tapping mode, it is moving up and down. So you can see that this is a free amplitude when the tip is oscillating in the zero force range. Zero force range means the tip is away from the van der Waals force range. I mean, it's so far away, tip is so far away that it's not facing any force. So that means it will oscillate with its amplitude, whatever you are oscillating, 100 nanometer, 110 nanometer. But when you bring the tip close to the surface, when you approach the surface, approach means you are landing on the surface of the substrate which you want to measure. So because of this force, attractive force, so this amplitude will reduce, right? For example, it is oscillating like this, and let me show you by hand movement. So it is moving like this freely, but when it moves, when it comes closer to the surface, so if it was moving like this, amplitude, there will be amplitude reduction, right? Because of it is being dragged with the force from the surfaces. Okay? You can do this thought experiment by imagining a spring and a magnet which is attached to the end of the spring, and there is a steel plate. So, for example, you have the spring which is flexing, which is oscillating, and a piece of magnet is tied at the end. And when you bring close to the steel plate, So obviously there will be reduction in the amplitude because there is a force of attraction between both the objects. So you can design actually these kind of experiments and you can understand it. So these are there are various forces which act in various regions. So van der Waals force acts between till a few tens of angstrom, and it is repulsive uh, when you go close to the substrate. Otherwise, it is attractive. Capillary forces are there due to the water layer absorbed onto the surface, surfaces. So please note that all the surfaces objects which you see around you, uh, because of their nanoscopic roughnesses, there is always adsorbed water layer, a few nanometers, and this creates a capillary force, which is a nuisance actually in AFM because it just pulls the tip close to the surface, and it sometimes masks the van der Waals forces. So that's the reason that it's better to do the AFM in vacuum condition, or you remove the humidity by dehumidifier. So this is a very nice curve which explains how the forces act. This is the basic repetition of what I already explained. This is another way of understanding it. So you can see that when the separation between tip and sample is very large, you can see that the tip is not showing any deflection. Remember, f is equal to minus kx. So when the tip approaches, so you can see that it basically bending downwards. This is straight line, which is a neutral line, neutral condition. And when it reaches to when it lands to the surface, you can see that there is a repulsion. It's in the contact mode. If you press it harder, there will be further there will be deflection because of stronger repulsive force. So and so forth. When you pull it back, so then it has to pass through the adhesive forces. So, so all these regions which I showed you have tons of information about the sample. For example, I already mentioned that contact mode, when the tip is in contact with the substrate, it tells the information, for example, Young's modulus, elasticity, plasticity, viscosity, and some kind of active forces. When you retract, when you pull the tip away from the surface, then you get information about antibody-antigen interaction, ligand-receptor interaction, DNA hybridization, and further you can get a lot of other information, basically DNA stretch, protein folding, unfolding, and many applications are there. Uh, so let us understand a little bit in detail about the individual techniques. So first I will teach you the contact mode imaging and applications. As you already know, so this is the shape of the tip, which is in V shape. Okay, for the contact mode, the reason is that to avoid the tip breaking. So this is taken as a V shape, and you can see that this is the chip where these cantilevers are held, and the spring constant is of the order of 0.03, 0.01 Newton per meter. So you can easily calculate actually that suppose you want to calculate the force as, let's do some calculation. For example, you want to calculate F is equal to 10 nanonewton force. So you already have F, and this is the K. So you can calculate for this force how much will be the value of X. So this is some exercise which I would like to give it to you. You have to convert everything in nanometers. So you get different kinds of information. Primarily, you get height information. We call it topography information. You also get deflection information, and you get friction information. We already mentioned that there will be friction also. So these are some, without going into complexities, you can see that these are carbon nanotubes, carbon nanofibers buried into the polymer matrix. And what you see on your screen, that you have, this is height image for the same surface. You can see that 1.5 cross 1.5 area. This is a typical atomic force microscope image, packing mode, contact mode. And second panel shows you deflection information, and number three shows you friction. And this is uh, basically zoom out view. So here you have this you have basically the scan area from 0 to approximately 4 micron to 4 micron. So now we have to understand what do we mean by these different colors. So when you go upwards, basically in lighter colors are basically higher features here. So if you can see that here, the lighter features will be, you can see that this is 100 nanometer. So this color, pinkish color here, will have height of 100 nanometer. And for example, this color will be, darkest color will be the valleys. So these are lighter colors are hills, and these are valleys. So you can draw the line, and you can actually calculate these feature sizes. You can do a lot of analysis. You can do the grain size analysis. You can do roughness analysis. Similarly, here it is a deflection, cantilever deflection, which is basically how the cantilever is flexing up or down. So this is plotted in voltage, but you can convert that into units of distance also. This is frictional force microscopy, and it's the same sample, but you can see that the scan area is almost 3.9 micron to 3.9 micron. So there are two ways you can do this experiment. I will show you some some animations. Um, so you can see on your screen. So here on your screen, you can see that this is the cantilever, which is moving up or down. And let me slow it down. This contact AFM demonstration. So you can see green is the sample, and this golden thing is the tip. And the objective is to trace this topography. So what you see on your screen, that there are two curves which will trace. This is cantilever deflection X, remember, and this is vertical tip position. So so the way it works is, I will explain you that the tip is trying to, this is like, balloon riding on, if you are sitting in a hot air balloon and you are riding on a rocky surface, surface, there are valleys and there are hills. So how do you decide how much? And you are asked that you have to fly almost 50 meters away from the surface. Then you see this hill, and you have to immediately move upwards, otherwise you will crash. So you have to direct, you have to basically put more hot air into the balloon, so that balloon maintains the same 50 meter distance. And when you see this valley, then you have to decrease the hot air amount, and then so that you can maintain the same distance. So that's how the tip works. So basically, tip measures the force between. For example, you say that I want to maintain the 50 nanometer force in the repulsive range between tip and sample. So how does it maintain that force? Because when it scans over, when it moves this way, so because topography is changing, the force will change. So one of the ways is basically it moves up and down, right? So that's what you will see here, that you see that this is moving up or down, or you basically flex the cantilever. Cantilever will flex, right? Um, so this is how it works. There are two ways of you can do this measurement. You can either keep the height constant, or you can keep the force constant. Okay, so you can see another. This is the image of bacterium. So beautiful image is this, and there are many examples. You can see that this is another example of a collagen, and this is another example of carbon nanotube grafted with polymer. So beautiful images. So these are silver nanostructures, right? So contact mode AFM is highly versatile, but as you know that it is high resolution, it's good speed, and but it has the problem of the shear forces. So that's the reason that one should one can use for soft sample, uh, one can use tapping mode. But if you are expert that for this image shows that these cells, if you're an expert, you can see that very good images on the soft surfaces also. But there are dynamic modes, tapping mode, which I already mentioned. I will show you animation how the dynamic mode works. Yes, so you can see that here tip is oscillating. You know, this is amplitude A0. A0 means free amplitude when tip is not not feeling any force from the surface. So it is far away from the sample. So when it lands, when it approaches the surface, so obviously following the force distance curve, which we have already seen, first it will start feeling the attractive forces. The moment it starts feeling the forces, there will be, you will see that there will be reduction in the amplitude. So there are two ways that, the amount of reduction in the amplitude basically tells that you are sitting on the bumps or valleys. Okay, so again, you can either you can maintain this distance. That suppose you say that I want to maintain only constant amplitude. So you can instruct the electronics, okay, that I want to maintain this moment. So for that, you need to constantly move the tip and tip up and down. So, so this is you have to, this is called feedback. You have to click on the feedback mode. So you can see that immediately there is a reduction in the amplitude. You can see that. Okay. And by the reduction in the amplitude, you can so basically this is set point, a set point. So you can decide that okay, this is my set point, a set point. I want to maintain that. To maintain to maintain that, so this cantilever will have to move up and down. It has to press. It has to adjust uh, due to the variation in the topography. So this movement of cantilever up and down to maintain this set point is recorded, and that is the record of the topography which you can see. It's a very interesting technique. So you see it again. You can see this in these slides, same information that so this is the input signal, sinusoidal signal to this cantilever through this piezo. So the piezo basically moves this up and down, and laser hits on the apex of the cantilever, and this laser deflection is read by this photodiode, and this is the output signal. So any change in the amplitude of this cantilever will be recorded here. And not only the amplitude, one can record phase also. And as you can see that this is free amplitude, this is the amplitude reduction. So there can be a phase shift. Phase shift is very, very sensitive to the surface properties, the material properties like viscoelastic properties. So one can get records of change in the amplitude, change in the phase, and so this is the comparison between different techniques, how you can detect. You can detect amplitude or phase. Sometimes actually you can detect frequency also, because there will be change in the frequency, obviously. So advantage of this mode is basically that, as I told you, that if there is a contamination layer, it breaks free of this contamination layer because that vertical force is very high, so it can really break free of this contamination layer, which is the disadvantage in non-contact and contact mode. Uh, so these are some of the images of human red blood cell RBCs. You can see how beautiful images are there. You can see height image, amplitude, and phase image. These three informations are you get. And as I mentioned that the color coding mentioned is like 65 nanometers. So lighter areas are higher in the height, and the darker areas are the lower in the height. This is another example. So this is a comparison between both the technique, contact and tapping. So this fast atomic resolution, good for hard surfaces. There's a lateral forces, big normal force, because you are always, you know, you're always pressing the surface. So here shear force is completely zero, lateral force is completely zero, but there is a normal force because you are tapping. So good for soft surface. So to measure the surface, one doesn't need to really be, apply. You don't need to touch. If you are far away, but still you are in the range of van der Waals force or whatever force you want to measure, whether it is magnetic or electric, that is good enough. That's the beauty of this technique. So phase imaging basically it records the dissipation of energy due to the surface interaction. So this is the advanced mode. These are some of the examples. You can see beautiful images. See another image, another AFM image. So this is the last image I will leave you with. This is the tapping mode image which was done in the fluid cell. Fluid cell is basically when you put the water or whatever buffer solution uh, in a spatial cell, and you do the same measurement in the fluid. So why would you like to do the measurement in that environment? For example, people wear contact lens. So this is the image of the contact lens, very small area of the contact lens, and over a period of time there will be some damage to the contact lens. And you want to image that. So one when one wears contact lens, the environment of eye is saline. There are some proteins, and it's not the same as pure water. So you would like to see the contact lens, which is basically a polymer, uh, into that environment. So because this will relax this topographical information for dry contact lens and the contact lens in its condition where it is designed to work will be very different. So there is no advantage if you take topographical information of a dried surface. So this flexibility is there in this machine that you can change the environment the way you want. Uh, and that's the beauty of this technique. With this, I will end my uh, talk. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It was very nice and informative session for all. Thank you very much once again.